Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas. Oh, it's the holiday and happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. Kristen, what am I missing? I feel like I'm missing a holiday.
I don't know.
Happy all the holidays. Welcome to the Pete the Planet Show. Last show of 2024. Joining me is Kristen Elanius. Dame is on sabbatical. No, I don't know. How long? It's gone for 3 weeks.
I know.
I mean, that's like junior sabbatical.
It is. But in his defense, we kind of announced holiday closure a little late around here, and Dame's work anniversary is at the end of the year. So he had some time saved up. So
I honestly have no idea how any of that works. Hello, Rav Renfro. I don't. Kristen, I told you earlier today, we're sitting out in the main space. I'm getting some work done. And I was like, hey, on Monday, does so-and-so want to go to lunch? They're like, we're closed on Monday. And I'm like, okay, well, don't tell my wife because I want to come to work. Oh. Hey, Andy, happy holidays to you. We miss Dame as well. We've got an eventful show given that we're going to be off for 2 weeks. So this is the last show. So I don't know about you, Kristen, but do you get frustrated when you go to a podcast feed and you look for that day when your podcast is supposed to come out and it doesn't come out and you're like, dang it.
And they didn't tell me.
Yeah,
that's really upsetting for me.
What do you think of the move of the repost of an older show? Do you like that move? Hi, Rochelle.
If it depends on how loyal I am to that show in particular, because some of my shows, I've seen them all. So if you're giving me a repeat, I'm very upset.
Yeah, I feel that way too. Do you ever start a new show and you start a new show and you just start where you start and it's not like an episodic one. It's just like a new episode. It's not episodic. It's just a new episode. And you start there and then you go back and catch the library over time. Do you ever do that?
No, because I feel like for that to happen, you have to watch it live.
Watch it. I'm not talking. You watch your podcast? I mean, I guess people are currently watching this podcast. Hey, Dan. Hello, Rick.
I watch all my podcasts. Do
you really?
You don't? Well, and I wouldn't say intently, but the video is playing.
I consume my podcasts usually around 5 a.m. I've woken up for now the third time because I'm a,
geriatric.
Sure. And so then I can't sleep. So I just put on my pillow, causing all sorts of rays to go into my head or whatever. And I just listen to podcasts for a couple hours. And so I consume a couple podcasts by 7 a.m. every day. Hi, J.O. Hello, Andy.
Still sleeping.
Oh, I already said hi to Andy. All right. Do you want to do the show? Oh, do you listen to your podcast while you ruck? Rucking update. I haven't rucked in a while, but I need to ruck. Kristen, do you have any New Year's resolutions you want to share here? Are you doing dry January?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I am too. I'm going to try to do dry quarter. See what happens. By the way, I'm starting on the 5th because I'm going to be in New York. So sorry, I can't help it.
So not dry January.
Well, I mean, dry most January. That sounds like moist. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to work out more. Whatever. Okay. Let's do a show. I do want to note that tonight I'm doing a comedy show. Mm-hmm. My cousin Danny Dunn, for those in Indianapolis, their tickets are still available. Victory Field, where the Indianapolis Indians play baseball games. There's a nice corporate suite area in there, and Danny Dunn and friends, I'm apparently his friend, despite the fact that I'm his cousin. I'm hosting the show, so I'll do some jokes. I'll bring up the comedians, do some more jokes, bring up more comedians. Rick Swinks wants me to do 75 hard. I mean, here's the thing. Kristen, you've done 75 hard, haven't you?
Yeah, a few times. In fact, I'm kind of wrestling with the idea of starting the new year with 75 hard.
I'll look into it, Rick, because you've never guided me astray. But I'll just say this. I'm very soft. And the idea of going 75 hard feels like it might be able to kill me. Might kill me.
Do 75 soft.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Boy, all of a sudden Rick works for Nike. Do it. Anyway, comedy show. Kristen, here's the thing about the comedy show tonight. I've had a very busy week. So I will be working on my material as I drive down to Victory Field tonight, and we'll just go with it. I
am glad I'm not you.
Mainly just Purdue jokes is what I'm going to make because IU and Notre Dame played tonight. Okay, let's do a show because no one gives a rip about any of what I'm talking about. What do you want to start with? Like, we have a couple things.
You say it always has to be the best segment. So whichever one you feel like is the best.
Do I say that? The first segment's the best segment?
That it has to be meaty. Like it's got to be real.
Oh.
So you usually start with like your column.
Wow.
That's what you said.
No one even knows what that means. Hey, I'm working on my Spanish right now.
Oh?
Yeah.
Do you have an app? Tell me more.
Duolingo.
Same.
I'm working on it. I think I'll share this with you. My son's playing in a Latin league soccer, and I'm just like, I'm a visitor in that community, and I want to. So many people who don't speak English as their primary language learn English so they can better communicate in certain situations. Yet we tend to not do that. So I'm like, I want to do that.
That's fair. How long have you been committed to your Duolingo journey?
About a week and a half in.
Oh,
well, no, I mean, it's new.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm not going to work on it with you here because,
For the best.
Okay, let's start in three. We'll just go with it.
Okay.
3, we'll be fine. 3, 2, 1. This week on the Pete the Planner Show, we answer your money questions. Here's how the show works. You email us, askpete@petetheplanner.com. That's askpete@petetheplanner.com. And if your personal finance question rises to the level of genius, you probably won't read it on the air. But if you need some help, we will help you with that. Joining me, as always, most times, is Kristen Elanius. Kristen, hello.
Hello, Pete.
Damian Dunn, who has the same last name as me, looks remotely like me, is not here this week. He is on junior sabbatical.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? I'm working on my Spanish, so throughout the show, I will be giving you Spanish phrases, and that means, where is the library? Thank you. Okay. Kristen, I want to start with a little guessing game for you. It turns out, as you may or may not know, you are between the ages of 21 and 35.
I am indeed.
And if you added those ages together, that's closer to my age. No. So there was a report that came out this week of the old, what should a person have saved by the time they're this age?
Yeah.
And so I'd like to do a little guessing game with you.
Okay.
We're going to do our best here. And we're going to start with, for a worker earning the median income in the country. Okay. So a worker having the median income, you should have 3 times your salary by the age of 40, 6 times your salary by the time you're 50, and 8 times by the time you're 60. Okay, so what this report is saying is, like, as a rule of thumb, you want 3 times your salary by the age of 40. So, Kristen, kind of doing some reverse math here.
Mm-hmm.
That means at age 40, you would want $126,000 to know that you have some level of financial stability.
Okay.
You are a personal finance expert. You are a certified financial planner practitioner.
Indeed.
You hear a 40-year-old has $126,000 set aside for retirement. What do you think?
I have many thoughts, and it's because that number just does not tell any sort of story. It doesn't give us any context around how long they've made that income, how well they've done with their saving. Have they had, relationship transitions that have affected their retirement savings? What does their household saving look like? I have so many thoughts.
All right. So I will say this. Let's say I'm working, and I average the median income in this country, and I am 40 years old. Mm-hmm. I have $126,000. That's pretty solid. I think it's pretty solid.
I was going to say, I don't feel like it's enough.
Oh, it's not enough, but it's pretty solid.
Well, because it's relative, right? That's what's so hard about this advice is people see these numbers that they don't have, or like this idea that we had for so long nationally that, hey, you need $1 million to retire successfully. It feels so out of reach and people just kind of throw their hands up. So that could be where my trepidation comes in there.
GoBankingRates.com polled 1,000 working American ages 21 and older and have been in their current roles for at least 1 year.
Okay.
Of those 1,000 Americans, what percentage of those people don't have a 401k? Kristen,
No
what
401k
percentage
at all?
of 1,000 working Americans, what percentage don't have a 401k?
25.
5%.
What?
So when I heard that, I was like, man, this is some skewed data, because they clearly didn't ask certain types of professions.
Exactly.
So I do not feel like that data point is a cross section of this working class United States. Okay, how about this? Of that 1,000 people, specifically workers 21 to 35, specifically 21 to 35, what percentage have less than $25,000?
A third of them. 33%.
Close. 20%. 20%.
Okay. I mean, that's better than I expected.
What percentage have between 25 and 50K by the time they're 35?
Can I go back to my 33% guess?
31.7%.
Okay.
That's a great guess. Okay, let's see what you do with this. Between 50 and 100, what percentage of people by the time they're 35 is basically what it's saying,
Okay.
have between 50 to 100 in their 401k?
65%.
How could it be 65 when we've already done those other percentages?
Oh, that's a really great question. So whatever is left,
No.
100 minus 33 minus.
Oddly, okay, so interesting, right? Oddly, the answer is 33%. So listen, we went 20%,
20,
30, 30, and now that means there's 10 left over. So between 100 and 500,000, roughly 10% of people aged 35 have between $100 and $500,000, and then no one surveyed had more than $500,000.
So, okay, can you, one, I didn't realize there was still going to be a bracket left. So I was trying to get whatever's left. But so the takeaway here is that people are, that they polled, right? Because obviously the sample wasn't representative.
Correct.
Are on track?
I don't know if they pulled that out, but I would simply say, if you have between $100,000 and $500,000 in your 401k by the time you're 35, that's pretty solid. I mean, that's you're going to be, obviously the higher the better. The fact that a third of people between 50 and 100, that's not necessarily discouraging by any means. Have between 50 and 100, 33%. I'd be a little nervous at the 25 to 50%, which is also a 30, or 25 to 50,000, which is also a third. Mm-hmm. What is a person when they hear this? What are they supposed to do with this? Like, if let's say you're 34 years old, you got 75 grand, which puts you in the middle sort of third there. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to feel bad about yourself? Are you supposed to contextualize everything else that's happened in your life that led to that? What are you supposed to do, Kristen?
Yeah, you're sit in that awareness, contextualize what that means for you, your lifestyle, your income, your unique circumstances, and then look toward a plan of action. Start to build a plan to, if you need to make up a difference, say, hey, I didn't say that well in my early 20s or my late 20s, and say, what is it going to take to, right the ship, if you will?
I do think there's more of an appetite, at least in Gen Z, to invest. Okay. I think my question would be, is it investing in retirement? I feel like I have no data, because I generally don't. I have no data, but I believe Gen Z does more non-qualified investing than previous generations because of things like alternative investment classes and cryptocurrencies and those sorts of things. Do you get a sense that Gen Z is doing more non-qualified investing?
I would agree with that. And again, we don't have the data to support that, but I think it's just a byproduct of the access that we have to investing. I think previous generations would have been inclined to do the same if they had an app that allowed them to buy securities on their phone.
This is interesting. This is interesting because to that very point, when I was in high school, I invested a lot. Like I was an ongoing investor, and I knew of probably 2 or 3 other people at an 1,800 person high school that also did that.
Right.
Again, I didn't survey all 1,800 kids at Pike High School in 1996, but I know I was actively investing. I knew a couple other nerds were too. Today, anecdotally, the stories I hear of my daughter's friends and people I know's kids, a much larger cross section of kids are invested. I would say 10% of high school kids are actively investing, which is pretty wild.
I think it's awesome.
It's a made up stat. We should do a study. All right, coming up after the break, the top 10 personal finance stories of 2024. That's next, right here on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. 10%. I might buy that.
I don't know.
I mean, I would also have to probably area codes or zip codes probably contribute to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Sure.
All right. Are you ready for these top 10 stories?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's just crank through them. What we'll do is I'll bring them up, and then we will talk about the impact. What we can do is we'll bring them up. We'll talk about the impact they had this year. And then maybe we'll try to say, will that trend continue in 2025?
Oh, interesting. I also think our level of awareness of some of these things would be telling.
Yeah, that's true. I haven't really read through the list, so we'll find out.
Good deal.
Go figure. 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner Show. Kristen, happy Christmas to you.
Happy Christmas indeed.
And all the other holidays, which you celebrate New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so happy New Year's to you. I'm going to be in New York the day after New Year's Eve. So it could smell like a sock.
Ew.
I know, but we're going to steer clear of that area for sure.
Call. All
right, Kristen, top 10 personal finance stories of 2024 compiled by my GPT. My chat GPT has done this for me. Thank you, AI. By the way,
yes.
Have we talked about Alexa on this show recently? Like the Amazon
I don't believe we
OG
have.
AI?
What did she do?
Let me give you some disclosures real quick. I am an Amazon shareholder. Okay. I also don't want to anger Jeff Bezos.
Fair.
It's gotten terrible.
Agreed.
It's terrible. Like, so you could argue it was kind of the original AI. It's like this companion that knows stuff, that searches. It's terrible. It's somehow gotten worse. And like, how is it that this thing, which if I'm cooking, and I don't mean like, like seventh grade boys talk about cooking, which is like performing well in sports, but if I'm literally preparing a meal for my family, if I say, hey, Alexa, what's a good substitute for this or that? I do not know the answer. I don't know. But if I get on my phone and I just go to ChatGPT and I use the verbal thing and ask,
I know.
So I want to be able to activate that anytime. It's like, what do we do? Anyway, top 10 stories. Number 1, student loan forgiveness initiatives. The Biden administration continued efforts to alleviate student loan, forgiving billions for thousands of borrowers through various programs. In fact, Kristen, just this morning, there was a big news drop about another batch of student loan forgiveness. Massive story. My prediction is that it's going to be a massive story for a different reason in 2025 that is not so great. Kristen, what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with that. The Biden-Harris administration takes credit, and I mean it when I say that, for $180 billion for nearly 5 Americans. And the reason I use those words specifically is that $78 billion of it was through public service loan forgiveness. But I definitely agree. I think we're going to hear so much about student loans, ongoing court challenges, people trying to buy back payments. It's a mess. And I think that it'll be very negative in 25, unfortunately.
Yeah, I want to clarify one point that you made there is, yes, the Biden-Harris administration did do some specific things to have student loans forgiven for people. Correct. But a vast majority of those student loans forgiven, of which they took credit for, had nothing to do with them. It's just that people qualified for them because it's a calendar-driven program and their 120 payments were up. So I agree. I think those stories are all going to turn negative, and I think there's a reasonable, not a majority possibility, but a reasonable possibility the public service loan forgiveness gets flipped on its head a little bit in the next couple of years, but we'll see. Next, credit card rewards programs scrutiny. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau warned credit card issuers against devaluing or canceling reward points, emphasizing the importance of transparency and fairness in reward programs. Kristen, I can be honest with you, I don't remember that story here in 2024. Do you?
I don't remember it either, but I am very out of touch with the credit card reward world. I think sometimes people are very in tune with what cards are best. So I think it's just lack of exposure for me.
I will say, my airline miles that I have through a particular airline, when they change those programs so radically that it devalues them to this crazy level, because of business travel and other things, I have all these points and rewards on things. They made a significant change to the program this year. Boy, it stinks. Like it actually makes me feel like I lost thousands of dollars somehow. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad there is some scrutiny there, though I would argue, isn't there talks of the CFPB going away under the Trump administration?
I think there's a lot of talk of a lot of things going away.
Okay, so do we expect more scrutiny for that and for airlines? I'll say airlines because I know the Transportation Administration, Department of Transportation, was under Pete Buttigieg was really into like sticking it to airlines if they did weird stuff. I think that trend does not continue in 2025.
Yeah, I don't think it does either.
Generation Z's income expectations is the third story of 2024. Many Gen Z individuals express belief that an annual income of $500,000 is necessary for financial success, reflecting concerns over rising living costs and economic instability. While I had not seen that exact number, maybe I have and I've dismissed it so I can sleep at night. I do think every generation, to be fair, that makes its way into the workforce has increased salary expectations. So on some level, Kristen, I'm trying to be fair. I don't feel like we should really stick it to Gen Z because they're Gen Z. I think every generation feels this way.
Yeah, I think I couldn't agree more. Every generation wants more than the previous generation. The challenge here is the stark difference between the expectations of millennials and Gen Z that I find slightly concerning, but hope that we see more of that level out as that generation spends more time in the workforce.
You are a much younger human being than I am, but at one point in time, younger generations were always talked about as being entitled. And I think this headline actually captures the truth better, is that they're expectant. And I think expectant is different than entitled. And I would also, again, it's important to acknowledge from what it costs to live and survive as a young person today, a lot more expensive than it was when I was that 22-year-old that expected a reasonable base salary. By the way, the standard base salary when I got out of college in the year 2000 was $30,000. If you could come out making $30,000, you're fine. For what it's worth. All right, next story of the year. Buy now, pay later. Industry grows. The BNPL rolls off the tongue. Sector saw significant expansion with companies like Affirm securing substantial funding commitments, indicating a shift in consumer credit preferences. Kristen, will the buy now, pay later trend continue?
Yes, and I think it's going to get worse. You can affirm everything in 4 easy payments. I see that every time I go to buy something online. I think it only gets worse.
Yeah, I wonder. So, side note, my 7th grader starts a personal finance course when he comes back to school after the holiday break. So he's got his required 7th grade personal finance course. And I'm fascinated to know if they talk about BNPL, because if I'm a young developing mind around money and I see the Affirm or whatever Klarna logo every time I see something online, I need some help understanding what that is. So I'm just curious if they're going to talk about that or not.
I would hope that they are, but you never know.
You know what I'm going to do? I think we're going to have Ted, my son, come on and give regular personal finance updates on the show of what he's learning as a 7th grader. You want to do that?
Yes.
I've also joked on, like, can you imagine you're the teacher and you got some kid. It's like, my dad's a personal finance expert. And you're just like, okay, go to the principal's office.
Right. Detention.
My Auntie Kristen knows a lot too. All right. Final one before the break. Retirement regrets among older Americans. Surveys revealed common retirement regrets, including inadequate savings and over-reliance on Social Security, offering lessons for younger generations to improve their financial planning. Kristen, that's one of the top stories of the year, that people didn't retire with enough assets and they depended too much on Social Security. How is that even news? It's just called Tuesday.
Exactly. And that speaks to, we're going to continue to see this because collectively we are behind from a retirement perspective.
So let's do this after the break. We're going to hit the next 5 trends of personal finance in 2024. Will they continue? By the way, that last one will continue into infinity. I'm Pete the Planner, and this is the Pete the Planner Show. Well, we know how the show's going this week, don't we? What are you dames doing right now?
It's a great question. Not watching the show.
My daughter thinks I should fly to Turkey over the break and get a hair transplant. She said it at dinner last night. I was like, hey, what are you guys getting me for Christmas? And she goes, I know what we should get you. And I was like, oh, I'd love to hear that. She's like, a plane ticket to Turkey. And I was like, and why would that be? And she said, so you can, and she just did like a hand motion. I'm like, A, that's really funny. And I love that I've partially helped create that sense of humor. B, how dare ye, you know?
I've said it before and I'll say it again. I am not tough enough to be a regular at your household.
Our kitchen table is brutal.
Nope. Not for me.
Brutal.
I'm soft.
Okay. I'm soft.
I am. I'll cry.
And we start again. In 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner Show. It's the holiday edition, final show of the year. And then we will go to best of for a couple of weeks. Where, next Friday is the 27th, which is a really important day to not work. And then, of course, the next week I'm on vacation. Okay. Kristen, we're hitting the top 10 personal finance stories of 2024. Here's what we've hit so far. Student loan forgiveness was a hot topic. Credit card reward programs were scrutinized. Generation Z's income expectations were wild. Buy now, pay later industry grew like crazy. And the last one we covered before the break is that retirement regrets exist among older Americans. Kristen, yeah, what?
Of course. And?
Yes, that one will persist. The next one, ooh, Nelly. Financial literacy influencers on the rise. Personal finance influencers such as Vivian 2 gained prominence by providing accessible financial advice through social media platforms, empowering individuals to make informed financial decisions. Kristen, I think you and I share the sentiment that we are very thankful that there are some personal finance influencers out there delivering tried and true advice, correct?
Yes, could not agree more. We need more financial literacy.
And with all due respect, I have no idea who Vivian 2 is, and she likely has no idea who I am, so that's okay. That's just how a planet of 7 billion people work. That being said, there's a lot of bad.
There's
a lot of bad that does definitely more harm than good.
So if people are looking for good, if they're trying to increase their exposure to financial literacy, other than the Pete the Planner Show, do you have any people that you think they should watch? Do you have any favorites?
No, because I don't want to be the old guy. I am the old guy now. By the way, friend of the show, Rochelle, notes on our live stream that Vivian is awesome. Well, great. She's got the Rochelle seal of approval. So Vivian is awesome. That's what we've learned. I don't know. I'll just tell you, the evolution of that industry in the last 20 years has been certainly interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It was sort of Robert Kiyosaki, Dave Ramsey, David Bach, Susie Orman got in there. And that's when I started to try to get on that train, head that way and made some progress for sure. I don't know the landscape today, though. And I will say this cynically. I think, yes, that is about helping people, but I also think the trappings of social media and monetization of social media also turn into just the fame game.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I was subject to that too, so whatever. Okay. Oh, look at this. Rochelle says she recommends this show in her financial literacy teaching. Did we know Rochelle teaches financial literacy?
No.
Rochelle, I'm sorry I didn't know that. You and Andy, we got a few practitioners here. All right. Number 7, personal finance story of 2024, tax loss harvesting strategies. Despite market gains, investors utilize tax loss selling to offset gains with losses from underperforming securities. That's a top 10 story of 2024, according to my Chat GPT.
I think your Chat GPT is broken.
I think it's drunk. That's literally every year.
Every year.
I would say maybe there's more automated strategies with like robo investors, but like Betterment, they've been doing that for a decade.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I have my brokerage account set up for that. There's a little box that you check when you start your account. I couldn't tell you a thing that they bought or sold this year, but it's there.
Tax loss harvesting. So will that trend continue? Yeah, it will.
It always has.
Number 8, and boy, do I wish our bald friend was here. Potential government shutdown concerns. Fear of a U.S. government shutdown due to spending bill disagreements created market volatility, highlighting the impact of political decisions on personal finances. Kristen, I have to admit to you, even as early as this morning, I was listening to a podcast on this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've ever had more complex and mixed feelings about a topic in my entire life as it relates to personal finance. Like, I don't want there to be a government shutdown. I also know that funding for the Washington Commanders football team stadium that was in a version of the spending bill that was being voted on makes absolutely no sense. Like, so this idea that like we should be able to come to a conclusion of how to avoid a shutdown. But the more stuff that gets slapped on those bills by both sides of the aisles and okay, we'll put this on. And if you put this on, it's a mess. It's a mess. And I have more feelings that start to turn political, so I don't really want to go there. But I don't want the government to shut down. What, tomorrow? Is that what we're up against?
Tomorrow.
Do you think? We're in the prediction game here on this show. We've got for our Sunday listeners, by the way, tomorrow is yesterday. For our Tuesday listeners, tomorrow is last week. I think it happens. I don't think they come to a deal. Do you?
No, because this happens. For the majority of my adulthood, this is the conversation that we have now.
That's true.
I don't know. Tell us about it. Was it always like this?
Well, no. I mean, you are right. Your adulthood is about what, 10 years old? Ish.
Yeah.
Maybe a little further back. I'd say my adulthood is 25 years old. I'd say 18 to 20 years of it's been that way, but it's also possible this first 5 years I wasn't paying attention.
That's fair.
Because I had hair. It's handsome. Yeah, that's a weird one. Because I don't want to get into it too much, honestly, because this is not a politics show, and I'm just not. We talk about the economy. There's some good and the bad that's going to come with that. But the idea that a professional football team stadium in Washington, D.C. is part of that bill is insane.
But the revenue, Pete.
Oh, don't start with me. Number 9, personal finance story of the year, credit card debt management with rising consumer credit card debt. Financial experts like Kristen Elanius emphasize strategies for effective debt management, including budgeting and prudent spending to maintain financial health. That's a story of the year.
Well, okay, hold on. To be fair, in a rising interest rate environment when credit card debt is generally variable, I think that we felt the squeeze more than we had in a lower rate environment. I don't think that anything actually changed surrounding our credit card spending and habits as a nation, but those increased interest rates do force pressure on the consumer.
Sometimes I feel great about ChatGPT and what it's able to provide to me and the value it delivers to my life on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. Others have not really exposed themselves to it. I use it all the time for everything, including this list of top 10 stories of 2024. And it's a terrible list. You know what? I'm going to send a message. I don't like your work here.
Are you nice to AI?
Generally, but they needs feedback. I appreciate your feedback. Let's refine this. Okay. Number 10. And this is why, like, Kristen, I'm going to have to lean on you here. As always, you are the backbone of the show. Number 10 story of 2024, women's financial empowerment efforts. Despite notable achievements, a significant wage and gap persisted between men and women, prompting initiatives to empower women financially and address systemic disparities. Did you feel that in 2024? Was that what's happening in 2024?
I don't know that I did necessarily, but what I will say is we're having a lot more conversations collectively about gender differences in investing and things like that. And we also are seeing more female creators in personal finance. We're seeing more women achieve designations or certifications. So, I mean, in my world, yes, but I am biased.
You know what? That's a great point, and I actually love that. There are, because of content creators and how that all works today, there's more female influencers in personal finance, and that I love. I mean, because sometimes when you're looking for that little nudge, or you want representation, you want someone that maybe looks like you or feels like you or talks like you, and so I love it. It's fantastic. Let's do this. Let's take a break. Come back with the final biggest waste of money of the week.
Yay.
Could call it waste of the year. And the news. That's next on Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. I'm flying through the show.
I know. We're not doing anything fun.
Oh, we aren't?
No.
I've been having fun.
Dame must be the humor for the show.
He must be. That's what everyone says. Everyone's like, man, that Damien, he sure is funny.
Yeah.
The number of people saying that. I don't know. Okay. You got your news stories fired up?
I do. I thought about sending them to you for you to read them, but.
Do you want me to do it?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. I'll just react. I'm trying to use my brain to write my stand-up material for tonight since I haven't written it yet. Do you want me to try out anything on you?
I don't want to feel the pressure to laugh.
Yeah, the delivery's hard too. It's like a cold. I can't. I'll figure it out. I'm not actually worried about it, but I do need to dedicate some brain power to it at some point today.
That's fair.
All right.
Yeah. The IU Notre Dame game. Bummer.
Well, I mean, college football games are 35 hours long. I'm going to catch the second half, you know? It's like over my morning overnight oats, I'll be able to. There's a joke in there. All right, let's go, Queen. And 3, 2, 1. This week's biggest waste of money of the week, right here on the Pete the Planner Show, is the Urwerk UR230 Polaris watch. Urwerk's watches have traditionally been black, gray, or a muted texture. Time out.
Granted.
Black and gray are colors. A muted texture is a texture. Mm-hmm. Their watches have traditionally been black, gray, or a muted texture. It's terrible copy.
Yeah, probably could have used another proofread on that one.
Yeah, I mean, that's not parallel structure back to it, which makes the UR230 Polaris a true break from the norm. Its case is carved from a block of proprietary fiberglass enhanced ceramic that's more resistant to impacts than ceramic alone. Wow, Kristen, can you believe that? It's more resistant to impact than ceramic itself. The material's visible fibers also give it a shimmering quality. which stands in contrast with the nearly all black your work caliber UR 730 movement.
Words.
Hermetically sealed inside a strong box-like container. It powers the 3-armed carousel, each holding a rotating block with 4 hours numerals, while a skeletonized hand points to the minutes. It's also equipped with an air brake designed to modulate the winding power according to the wearer's level of activity. The watch sits on a white vulcanized rubber strap and is limited to 35 examples. This is the dumbest thing I think I've ever seen. Kristen, for something so obnoxious that copy was written like this, what in the world would you what do you think it's worth?
There were so many words in there that I had never heard before, and an equal amount of words that I've never heard used in those contexts before.
Just a watch, kids. Just a watch. What do you think it costs?
It is. There's only 35 of them. There's vulcanized rubber. This is a $700 watch.
What? What did you say?
I said 700.
700.
Is it a lot more? Should I multiply by 10?
Kristen, you said a $700 watch?
What?
It's $170,000.
Oh my God.
Congratulations, Kristen, on your worst guess of 2024. It only took 50-some shows for you to show how poorly your brain estimates the cost of items. Congratulations.
Listen, I'm a woman for the people. We don't know how much these things cost.
Wow, that was terrible. Kristen, what is in the news this week?
The change in loan servicers caused nearly 2 million duplicate student loan records to appear on borrowers' credit reports. The faulty transfer of student loan accounts from Nelnet to Mohila in 2023 led to, quote, millions of consumer credit reporting errors, end quote. The change in loan servicers caused nearly 2 million duplicate records to appear, while hundreds of thousands of borrowers' credit scores were reported incorrectly for up to a year and a half. Mohila appears to have failed to inform the credit reporting companies of each loan transfer from Nelnet. Mohila did not immediately respond to a request for comment.
You know, that stinks.
It does.
Because when people go to have to fix it, it's not easy. It's a terrible, terrible process. Meanwhile, they're impacted with their debt to income ratio. They're impacted where they try to go get correct interest rates on a car loan or a home loan. And there's nothing they can do about it. And the government's just like, oh, sorry.
Sorry, we hired people that are incompetent. Are bad.
That's terrible. Like, you know what it takes to get something off a credit report?
Yeah.
This is not okay, we'll just reverse it. No.
Because then they have to reach out to those companies, and Mohila already wasn't doing what they were supposed to. The thing that's kind of troubling to me in this is apparently Mohila, which is the company that received the student loans, was supposed to report that they were no longer with Nelnet. Why isn't Nelnet just reporting that the loans have moved from them? Why would that be the new servicer's responsibility?
Not only that, but if they can't get that right, what you just said, there's no way they're going to get the correction right, you know?
No. And I've seen anecdotally people who are like, oh, my student loans fall off my credit report. Now what? And I'm like, don't expect that to stay. Like, they'll find you eventually.
Okay, so let's just think of a person here because it's just a lot easier.
Yeah.
This happens to a guy named Gary. He discovers it when he runs his credit report.
Mm-hmm.
Gary's like, I don't know what to do. By the time it takes him to figure out what to do, it gets fixed. This is at least an 18-month to 2-year problem for Gary, in my opinion.
I would agree with that. But also, what is the forcing function that then Gary realizes this is incorrect? Because everything is going to look correct on the new servicer's portal. And Gary, like most Americans, is probably not checking their credit report. And if they do, people don't understand generally, if they've never looked before, that their student loans are being reported as itemized loans versus in aggregate. So Gary is overwhelmed just by that in and of itself, much less the reporting from Mohila and or Nelnet.
The other interesting part about that is people can be so overwhelmed with their student loan debt and they just give up knowing anything about it.
Correct.
So if it does go up significantly, he may think he actually owes it.
Agreed.
You know, when you started reading this story, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Now I'm actually kind of mad.
As we should be. Because the government pays these people. They pay these servicers to manage these obligations. That is their job. And they fail over and over and over.
What else is in the news?
Would you like something more uplifting?
Yes. Yes, please.
If you ditched cable for YouTube TV because it was cheaper and you wouldn't have to speak to another human being on the phone in order to cancel, only one of those things is still true. The internet platform told subscribers that it's raising the cost of its monthly subscription to $83 starting January 13th, up $10 from its current price, roughly in line with the average U.S. cable TV bill. My question for you, Pete, is when was the last time you went back over your streaming services and ended some of those relationships?
I think I did last year, maybe at this time. I may have done I canceled Disney Plus. I'll say this, though. I got YouTube TV on like a 7-day trial or something earlier this year to try to watch a Caitlin Clark game for the Fever. Yes. Because I couldn't get on my normal TV. And I was like, and I set an alarm to cancel it, 6 days in or whatever. I almost would have preferred to call someone to cancel it because it was so hard to figure out how to cancel it. And I was like, I have a college degree. I run a tech company. I couldn't figure it out. And so I'm like, man, I would have rather just waited online and had someone yell at me.
Or try to convince you to stay. Yeah.
I probably, you know what, to your point, maybe here, this holiday, I can spend some time looking at subscriptions to see ones I don't use. I will tell you, a television subscription that I use a lot more this year than I previously had is Paramount Plus.
Really?
Here's the thing. My wife says that any fiction media I consume is a fantasy of mine of I am a cowboy, I am a spy, I'm an oil rancher, whatever. All these Taylor Sheridan shows on Paramount Plus.
Say that.
She mocks me incessantly about most things because she sits at our kitchen table.
Right.
Every single one of them. I'm like, I'm in every single one.
Good.
Although I will say the mayor of Kingstown is the weirdest show ever.
I haven't watched that one.
It was with Jeremy Renner. He's this fixer. He's like this go-between between prisoners, prison guards, the police, and the feds. And he's this former felon that everyone trusts to keep the peace in the prison. It's the dumbest idea ever.
Love that.
But I love it. All right, Kristen, this is it for the year. Next year, when we come back, I got promises. The show is going to go in some fun new directions. I may be more handsome when we come back. If I go to Turkey for hair plugs and so much more. Kristen, thank you. Everyone else, sending you good vibes because good vibes are all that's in the budget. I'm Pete the Planner. It's the Pete the Planner Show. Do you like Taylor Sheridan shows?
I used to.
Ooh. Is there a story there?
I mean,
that felt like I got punched in the face.
I'm just kind of over him writing himself as a main character into shows. I think that he's better as a writer and not as the cowboy hero.
Those are Yellowstone style. Well, did you watch Linus?
Mm-mm. I've only watched Yellowstone.
Well, okay. I've watched 4 or 5 of the series, and he's written himself into 2, Yellowstone and then Linus. But then it's a bit part in Linus. Linus is phenomenal.
This last season of Yellowstone was...
I gave up on Yellowstone when they went through the hiatus. I can't get back. I forget everything within a week. I got to binge a show because otherwise I'm toast.
The good news is the last season was so disjointed from the series previously, you wouldn't have to have remembered everything.
Oh, yeah, that stinks.
It's just all about Taylor Sheridan.
What are you going to do over the break? Anything significant or fun?
That's a fabulous question. Probably help do some repairs on a rental property for my mom and hopefully finish up some honey-do list items for the house to sell it. That's not fun. I don't know if I'm doing anything fun.
Look at this. Your sister and I are basically best friends. Are you seeing what she just put?
I know.
That's
She
right.
Like 1883 or whatever that one is. And
Caitlin and I are BFF. I'm going to New York at the end of the break for a little fun. I'm going to work on our YouTube channel. I want to make it a little better.
Love that.
And I had to finish writing a book that I've been putting off.
Yeah. Are you going to dabble in YouTube shorts for the YouTube channel? Like, how involved are we getting in this?
We'll see. Yeah. I mean, we do have some YouTube shorts. They're just not, whatever. Rick Swink says he had to Google Taylor Sheridan. I've only seen him in Sons of Anarchy. Also a great show. You ever watch Sons of Anarchy?
Mm-mm. Sorry.
Man, so many shows.
I know. And none of those are really, I don't know, not so much my vibe.
Kristen, 2025 is going to be a big year around here.
It is. I'm excited.
Some fun changes to the show. You're going to get a donkey or two.
Yeah. I've been looking up videos of proper care for donkeys. I need to be prepared.
I am not going to Google ass care.
Probably a good move.
Yeah, at least not at work. All right. Well, this is fun. Kristen, thanks for a fun year.
Thank you.
I don't know if I'm going to talk to you again before 2025. Now that I think about this, what do we, I mean, we'll probably text, but I don't think I'm going to talk to you.
Probably not. No.
Well,
how do you feel about that?
I get a little sad. I do love when we're able to text on the Kristen and Co. group text chain.
Tom's always trying to get me to like message you guys about things that you say on the show. And I'm like, no, text him yourself.
Well, here's the good news. I forget most of the things I say seconds after it comes out of my mouth, so I wouldn't even understand the reference. And by the way, you just used his government name. All right. That's it, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us this year. Next year is going to be pretty fun. So stay tuned. A little more firepower for you next year. What do we say? Oh, yeah. Stay getting money.